Nvidia has been the undisputed king of the AI revolution. I mean, they've been the titan driving the entire market. But, the throne is starting to look a little shaky. So today, we're going to break down the massive new challenges facing what has been the world's most valuable company. To really get what's happening now, you have to see just how far they've come. Since the end of 2022, Nvidia's stock has surged an absolutely incredible 1,300%. Nope, that's not a typo. It's the kind of insane growth that really defines an entire era. And that growth, while it hasn't just been good for them, it's lifted pretty much everything else. Since this bull market really kicked off in late 2022, Nvidia alone has been responsible for 16% of the S&P 500's entire advance. That is more than double the next biggest company, Apple. So yeah, one company has basically been the engine for the whole market. But lately, that engine has kind of started to sputter. In just the last few months, the company has shed a staggering $460 billion in market value, a loss that, on its own, is bigger than the entire valuation of most companies on the planet. Just wow. This sudden U-turn really leads to the big question, right? After a run that was literally historic, why the sudden fear? What has changed so dramatically? And it's not just market jitters. The experts see it too. As Joanne Feeney over at Advisors Capital Management puts it, the fundamental risks to Nvidia's total dominance are becoming pretty much impossible to ignore. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter. This story isn't just about Nvidia's meteoric rise anymore. Now it's about the rise of its rivals. There are two specific and really powerful threats that are now coming for the crown. Okay. So picture this battlefield. On one side, you've got the incumbent, Nvidia, sitting inside this fortress with over 90% market share. But on the other side, you have two different kinds of challengers. First, the traditional chip makers who are hungry for a piece of that pie. And second, something way more dangerous, Nvidia's own biggest customer. All right, threat number one, the direct competitor. AMD is not a distant second anymore. Not by a long shot. It's winning massive orders from giants like OpenAI and Oracle, and its data center revenue is projected to leap by about 60% in 2026. They are making some very real inroads here. But this second threat, this one might be even bigger. The four companies that make up over 40% of Nvidia's revenue, we're talking Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft. They are now building their own AI chips. And why are they doing this? Well, to get around paying over $30,000 for each of Nvidia's top-tier processors. They're basically trying to cut out the middleman. And the word on the street is definitely shifting. As Michael O'Rourke from Jones Trading points out, that seemingly untouchable 90% market share is now clearly under attack. The moat around Nvidia's castle? Well, it isn't looking nearly as wide or as deep as it used to. Okay, so that's the bear case. That's the doom and gloom. But the king is not giving up the throne just yet. So now let's look at the powerful arguments for why Nvidia's reign is far from over. This is the king's defense. It all starts with a simple, just overwhelming reality. And CEO Jensen Huang said it perfectly. Demand isn't just strong, it is skyrocketing. The AI models that are being built need way more computing power every single year. And guess who's at the center of that explosion? Nvidia. Just how big is that demand? Look at this number. Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Meta are projected to spend over $400 billion on capital expenditures in 2026 alone. A huge chunk of that is going directly to data centers and the chips that power them. The pie is just growing so fast, it might actually be big enough for everyone. And what's just wild is that despite its massive size, Nvidia is still projected to grow at a blistering pace. For fiscal year 2027, while a giant like Apple is looking at profit growth around 10%, Nvidia is projected to hit 57%. I mean, it is just in a league of its own. And you know who isn't betting against them? Wall Street. Out of 82 analysts covering the company, a staggering 76 have buy ratings. Only one single analyst recommends selling. That is an overwhelming vote of confidence from the financial world. So if you're an investor, the crucial thing to watch becomes this metric called gross margin. Just think of it as a measure of their pricing power. Nvidia has been able to command these amazing margins in the mid-70s. If competition forces them to cut prices and that number starts to fall hard, that's the first major red flag that their dominance is cracking. And here's the real kicker for the bull case, the valuation. Despite that massive run-up, when you look at its price-to-earnings ratio, Nvidia is actually cheaper than a lot of other big tech names, including software companies like Intuit. It's trading at a discount to over a quarter of the S&P 500. Bank of America's Vivek Arya sums this up perfectly. He says the market is pricing Nvidia as if the AI boom is already over. But if this is just the beginning, then the current stock price, even after this huge run, could actually be a major opportunity. So where does all this leave us? Well, on a brand new battlefield. The era of Nvidia's guaranteed uncontested dominance, that's over. From now on, the kingdom has to be actively defended. You can really see the whole story playing out on this timeline. What started as this amazing solo bull run is changing. We're now entering a new phase, a future where competitors and even their old customers are becoming major forces. The whole landscape is just fundamentally shifting. So it all boils down to the two sides of the coin. On one hand, the bear case. Fierce competition is coming, and that is going to put pressure on Nvidia's incredible profit margins. Then you have the bull case. The demand for AI is so explosive, and the stock is still so relatively cheap that maybe none of that other stuff even matters. Which leaves us with one last thought. The battle for the throne is absolutely on, but maybe the real question we should be asking is this. Is the AI kingdom becoming so vast, so powerful, and so valuable that maybe now it's actually big enough for more than one king?